Wants to sit with you. You're the attorney in here.
All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust meeting for November 18th, 2025. I now call the meeting to order. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of minutes from the October 21st, 2025 trust meeting. I can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. And the item passes. Item 3 is the ratification of claims for October 2025. If there's no questions or comments, we can take a motion in a second, which we have. And the item passes. Item 4 on the agenda is the items for individual consideration. Item 4A is a joint resolution approving the allocation of $100,000 in gold bonds funds in support of the We Host Alliance Affordable Housing Project, consisting of 38 affordable housing units at North Kentucky Avenue and Northwest 4th Street. Mr. Sittle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I will point out this would be I believe, the last allocation from the 2017 GOLD bonds on affordable housing. So we had the 100,000 left. So I believe, Kathy, you're going to give us a presentation this afternoon, so I'll turn it over to you to look at this, but just want to point out we did have another $50 million in affordable housing gold bonds approved by the voters, but that part of that, we still got to bring forward kind of the policy and things on what we're going to use on that.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy O'Connor, and I'm with the Co-Align Group, representing We Are Society this afternoon. We Are Society is a nonprofit affordable housing developer that has been working to put together this project in Oklahoma City for pretty close to 3 years now. The organization is dedicated to addressing the critical need for affordable housing in Oklahoma City and providing supportive services around those housing projects that they develop. Go to the next one. So the project is going to be located at 1645 Northwest 4th Street. The land is already owned by We Are Society. And the structure is, we have a lot of different funding sources, and we've had to cobble together a lot of different sources in order to make this project work. And one of the reasons why is that all of the units, all 38 units, will be available as permanent supportive housing for people who are coming out of homelessness. So they are all at 30% AMI or lower. We will be using, or plan to use, low-income housing tax credits as a part of this project. The structure includes the Oklahoma City Housing Authority as a partial owner. They will own 51%, but will have none of the responsibilities to providing guarantees on the financing. We also have partnered with American Covenant Affordable Housing Group out of, I think they're out of Minnesota, as a co-developer because we needed an experienced affordable housing developer in order to get through the OFA processes. The operations of the facility will be managed by the Homeless Alliance, which is why we called it We Host Alliance. So they will be responsible for the day-to-day operations and identifying people who can qualify to be in the facility. So this is a look at the project. Again, it's 38 units. 34 of those are one-bedroom units, and the other 4 are two-bedroom. This is the floor plan. It does have some common area or community spaces in the middle of the project. We think it's a kind of a unique design that we could even pick up and put in other locations as that becomes available because it's very compact. It fits really well on a pretty small piece of land and still has some open space in the middle with the units surrounding that perimeter, on the perimeter. This is just another view of the project. And this is our sources and uses. So the project is about $8 million. As you can see, we do have a wide variety of uses. We have some ARPA money that was made available by the City of Oklahoma City. We have affordable housing funds through the MAPS 4 program. That is why the Oklahoma City Housing Authority has that ownership interest. We have the $100,000 from GO bonds. We also received some home ARP money, and we plan to defer pretty much all of the developer fee on this project in order to provide an additional source. Is that it? I think that's it. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I appreciate Kenny and Joanna and the staff working on this. I know we got the last little bit of the affordable housing money, and it may not seem like much, but it really does help us get this thing across the finish line.
Go ahead.
Kathy, when will it start?
As soon as we close on our financing, we will begin construction. We already have our building permits. We have, all the zoning's done. Everything's ready to go. We just have to close on the financing, which with a LIHTC project can take a couple months to get through.
Any other questions or comments for Kathy? Thank you,
Okay,
Kathy.
thank you.
All right, item 4A, we can go ahead and take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The item passes. Item 4B is an approve agreement with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust, the City of Yukon, the Yukon Municipal Authority, setting forth conditions by which Oklahoma City and Yukon will annex and de-annex certain properties. Mr. Sudol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we pulling the presentation up on the screen? So this is something, and I will start by saying, so the City Council looked at this morning and deferred it 2 weeks just for some additional questions and things. This was something that Yukon had approached us with, and I'll kind of walk through this. Affects several different properties, and there were some, I think this is in the spirit of cooperation, started talking about, well, there's some things we need, and it's really something I think is beneficial for both cities. So I started having some discussions and facilitating discussions between Mayor Pillmore at Yukon and the city. I will say this body, the Economic Development Trust, is really probably a party to this because we're a party to some previous agreements that affects one of the pieces of property, so we really probably need to be a party to this. But going forward, some of the properties that are involved that would potentially come into Oklahoma City are owned by a different city trust, but I'll kind of walk you through this. So this agreement, if you go to the next slide, please. So it's really a four-party between the city, the Economic Development Trust, City of Yukon, and their municipal authority, kind of a similar thing. There's a piece of property that's owned by the Yukon Municipal Authority, and I'll walk you through this. But basically, the summary of what this is doing is it would, there's a piece of property that is by C.E. Page Airport that is owned by a City of Oklahoma City Trust, the Industrial and Cultural Facilities Trust, but it's in Yukon city limits. There's a couple of pieces of property that are in Oklahoma City by Yukon High School that we don't really want to develop or spend the money on, but Yukon would love to have them, and it would help, put some development around the high school. And then there's a piece of property, and this is from a prior agreement that is near Frisco Road, north of I-40, that used to be in Oklahoma City, had previously been de-annexed to Yukon, but had some restrictions. So I'm going to walk you through what happens on each of these pieces of property. You'll see it's kind of an exchange here. So if you go to the next one. So the first one, I'm going to call this the C.E. Page parcel. So this is the parcel that is approximately 150 acres. That's just west of Gregory Road, south of I-40. Under this agreement, this is currently in the city limits of Yukon. Yukon would have to de-annex this, and I believe once the agreement's approved by all parties, there'd be a 150-day period that both cities would have to kind of go through all these actions. So Yukon would de-annex this, and then it would immediately be annexed into Oklahoma City. Both those things would take various, legal proceedings from both cities. So this agreement does not automatically make that happen. It just says that the cities are going to go do these things. And the main thing I want to point out on this one is that this would happen, and if it comes into Oklahoma City, there are no restrictions. This was one of the things here in a minute, I'm going to tell you about the piece of property that Yukon owns that currently has restrictions from the city. Well, in exchange for us having no restrictions, they would like for us to lift some of the restrictions on their piece. So go to the next one. So this is the second piece. This is the piece that used to be in Oklahoma City. Currently, it's in City of Yukon. So this would stay in City of Yukon. But after pursuant to a 2015, then amended by a 2023 agreement, this piece of property is one that had some limits in what could be developed there. It also had a revenue sharing component that if they developed, retail or hotels and things there, that they would have to share the revenue 50-50 with the city for 15 years. So this is one of the things in exchange for not having any restrictions on our piece of property that would come into Oklahoma City. We would lift the restrictions here, the revenue sharing. We would, however, leave still a restriction on retail, certain types of retail development defined as things that were 125,000 square foot or larger. So it's really trying to say they can do some smaller retail, but they couldn't do the big retail power center type of developments here. And then finally, the two smaller pieces of property, these are the ones on Yukon Parkway just east of Yukon High School. It's a 10-acre piece kind of on the north side of Old Highway 4 and the south side, so total 20 acres. This would require the city to de-annex those and Yukon to annex them. And again, there would be no restrictions there. And I think there have been some interest in the past from some small developers to do some small, strip center type of developments or other things that the Oklahoma City really probably wouldn't be beneficial for us to run all the utilities and things to them, but Yukon would be able to, from a shorter distance, and it would be something that would help benefit Yukon. So again, felt like this was something that would benefit both cities, kind of provide some, development opportunities in the future for both, and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments?
I feel like I've heard this before.
Deja vu all over.
Were there due diligence issues, or what was flagged during the council meeting today?
I think one of the council persons, two of these are in, the one in far west on Gregory Road would be in Ward 3. The ones that are being de-annexed over by Yukon High School are in Ward 1. The Ward 3 council person just had some additional questions she wanted to ask and kind of work through some things. So just made a request to defer it for 2 weeks and then come back.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if that's it, we can go ahead and take a motion. We have a motion and a second. The item passes. Item 4C is the Economic Development Agreement with Wild Rooster LLC and TPC 2022 LLC for a pay-for-performance film incentive agreement not to exceed $181,298. Mr. Siddle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is just a reminder of the allocation on this, and I think the presentation was done back in July of 25, and this body approved it. So this is just bringing back the actual economic development agreement. I think it's a pretty standard agreement, but if there's other questions, Jill or Joanna are here to answer, but this is just kind of our normal bringing back the actual contract.
Any questions or comments on that? No, if not, we can take a motion on that item. We have a motion and a second. The item passes. Item 4D. Yes. Item 4D, it's been requested that we strike this item. The contract's going to require some corrections, and will be brought back for consideration at a later meeting. Thank you.
We don't have to have a motion.
You don't want to have a motion?
Do you want a motion?
Let's have a motion. Mark wanted to do a motion. I want to give him a motion. He likes to strike things. I don't know. We have a motion and a second. Item 4D is struck. All right, item 4E is to receive the Oklahoma City Economic Development Foundation fiscal year 2026 first quarter report. Mr. Copeland?
Good afternoon, members of the Trust. I'm Lee Copeland with the Oklahoma City Chamber. I am our Director of Talent Programs and Partnerships. This is my colleague, Eric Williams, who's our Manager of Business Growth. And we've been your business retention expansion team over the last 5 years together. So really just reporting out on the last 12 months. I've continued to transition into a more focused role on talent and workforce development. And so I'm going to allow Eric to just kind of give a highlight of our business retention efforts.
Good afternoon, Council. Eric Williams with the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, our Manager of Business Growth and Expansion. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. It was another great year, a strong year for Oklahoma City with business retention and expansion. Just a lot of exciting growth and thunderous energy. I hope you guys see what I did there. But the next slide, please. Thank you. But the general theme that we saw this year was just slower but steady growth with a greater focus on capital investment prioritized over the creation of new jobs in multiple industries, manufacturing, distribution, aviation, aerospace, bioscience, shared services, and many others. But over the past year, we have had a number of in-depth conversations, 229 to be specific, just engaged around performance, expansions, retention, workforce, and of those 229 conversations, 50 were in-depth on talent, on workforce needs, workforce opportunities, and partnerships in that aspect. Next slide. And of those 229 conversations, we were able to assist over 100 companies through a variety of needs, whether that was property needs, state incentives for their expansions, workforce to attract talent, retain talent, and of those 229 conversations as well, over 23 to be specific, around aviation aerospace as we focus as a city and a state on such a high-growing industry. But overall, across those 229 conversations, we saw $1.18 billion in capital investments, as well as 3,259 new full-time jobs. So very exciting work that we get to do, and we're only excited to see continue further. So, any questions? If not, I'll turn it back to Lee.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, as Eric mentioned, we continue to see sort of a slowing down in some hiring, other than in some critical areas that we mentioned, manufacturing, transportation, et cetera. There's some focused hiring that's happening. We continue to see with sort of higher experienced areas, but it is slowing a bit. Next slide. I think one of the things that we talk about is my role continues to change with the Chamber is how do we align talent? We recognize that in this labor market, we need to continue to focus on how do we align partnerships, creating really more direct pathways for the job seeker to the employer. So you see that ribbon cutting there, that's the result of our work with Oklahoma City Public Schools and the ribbon cutting for at Southeast High School for their Aviation Exploration Academy. So next slide. One of the things that we need to continue to do is grow our own talent. And so Oklahoma City FAME, which you've heard about, the Chamber initiated the first in the state chapter of FAME. We have a cohort number 1, that will graduate with 5 students with their associate's degree in engineering technology in May. They will have completed a national certification in engineering or advanced manufacturing, and they will also have 2 years of work experience with local manufacturers. Our cohort number 2 is halfway through their first semester, and we are currently recruiting new employers and new members of our 3rd cohort. Next slide. We continue to work in the nonprofit arena as well, partnering with Side by Side, which is sort of backed by Teresa Rose, in a conversation which we will be aligning nonprofit entities engaged in workforce development and also employers, finding better ways for us to have a consolidated voice in workforce development for employers and do a better job of finding that untapped workforce. Next slide, please. Just a couple of numbers for you to maybe think about as you walk away. We had over 260 interns that participated in our day-long conference, professional development, and start your career in Oklahoma City. Super excited about that. As we continue to expand our influence for the alignment of education and its impact on a workforce, just think Oklahoma City Public Schools alone, 34,000 plus students, and the potential impact on our workforce there. Again, you saw that the 12 students that are actively in our FAME cohorts. But here's a number that I think that we need to be thinking about in the future as we think about the quality of jobs and the impact on economic mobility for our citizens. The ALICE data, which comes from Federal Reserve, 41% of Oklahoma City, they estimate, between a combination of individuals that are living at the national poverty level or who are working and employed but who are whose assets are limited and are constrained. In other words, they're not seeing the prosperity maybe that all parts of the city are. So we continue to think about the importance of workforce development and its impact on our workforce. How do we get people into better jobs that find sustainable employment and create the life that they dream of here in Oklahoma City? So that's sort of the thrust of in the background behind our work in economic development as it pertains to workforce. So next slide, please. So just a couple of things for us to think about as we look ahead. Strategic partnerships are key in all of these critical areas, continuing to align partners and educational partners and employers in ways that actually complete the second component, which was we've got to unlock the door of employment for individuals that want to do better through employment, and we've got to fill critical roles for employers. So continuing to find sustainable pathways, reduce barriers are going to be essential. And really the Chamber understands that that central convening and aligning role is really a role that the Chamber needs to continue to pursue. And so we are working on an RFP that will enter the market beginning of next year that will seek sort of a nationwide search for consultants that would come in, do an in-market study, and really give us some best practices to begin to measure, to really begin to plant our flag and to do that work of alignment. So those will be significant pieces that you'll hear coming out of the Chamber in our work coming in the future. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me before we conclude?
Yes.
Lee, thank you for that presentation, and your colleague as well. So recently we had a major employer who's been a great partner to the city announce major layoffs due to AI and automation. And so I'm just interested in knowing, are there conversations internally happening around how we can align, our workforce when we think about these major technological transitions that are happening across the globe?
Sure. Yeah, I think we continue to ask those questions, what kind of disruption that employers are forecasting and seeing. I think in this particular case, we weren't able to have those kinds of conversations before the layoff occurred. I think so we're trying to kind of, dissect that in the rearview mirror. I do think that tech-related companies are where we're likely to see the biggest disruption because they've bulked up to create this technology. I think when in some of our other industries, what we're hearing is that they're continuing to look at this technology to improve process, to do some of those kinds of things. But even in terms of like manufacturing and things like that, there's still a high need for great human talent. So I think that we are continuing to listen, try to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening in industry. But we still have the need to continue to develop people to be ready for work in the future in the marketplace. I think we have to understand that AI is going to continue to impact that. But I think that's where we are looking, is that companies that have a high technology component are in my opinion, and what we seem to see right now, are most likely to be impacted versus maybe other places where there's not as high reliance on that kind of technology. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, we need to go ahead and take a vote to receive item 4E. We can take a motion and a second, which we have. The item passes. Brings us to item 5, the General Manager's Report. Ms. McSpadden?
Yes, I don't have anything specific to report, but I wanted to let everybody know that we're kind of coming to an end of that Oracle transition and we're really focused on reporting. Jennifer's helping us get some data, some dashboards set up so that we can really track our data and do some cross-referencing and making sure that we've got accurate reporting. So it's kind of a general statement. Happy to answer questions if you have any.
Any questions? No?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, item 6, any comments from staff? Trustees? Nope. Any citizens sign up to speak? Nope. All right, then we are adjourned. Thank you.